all-knowing and all-powerful plus Empress Liushen beauty+Travel and seclusion+Absolute invincibility and invincibility, speaking freely and freely. Chapter 1. Sun Palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the vast expanse of the universe, a planet the size of Saturn is quietly orbiting in its orbit. A man with an extremely handsome appearance stood tall in the void next to the planet. The person reached out a hand and gripped the palm of the giant planet next to him. Suddenly, the space trembled, and the immensely large planet suddenly became smaller and flew rapidly towards his hand. Earth, Shenming City. Lu Yu was excitedly watching a horror movie. Just as he was staring intently at the screen, the lights in the room suddenly flickered a few times. Is the light broken again? The small supermarket downstairs is really not good. He stood up and wanted to look at the light bulb before taking a step, suddenly feeling his brain dizzy and losing consciousness. When Lu Yu woke up again, he found himself no longer in his original room, but leaning against a pillar in a pavilion. The surrounding scenery is illuminated by light, like the scorching summer sun. Next to it are quaint corridors and palaces, resembling a pure world of cultivation. Lu Yu quickly sat up straight with excitement. Hey! Well, did I hang up? Lu Yu turned his head and saw something that shocked him the most. The palace was actually suspended in space, and next to it was a huge sun. The scenery in front of Lu Yu deeply shook his heart. Lu Yu regained his senses and shifted his gaze to the center of the pavilion. In the center of the antique pavilion, there is a classical circular stone table with some exquisite cups and cups placed on it. Sitting next to the stone table was a man who had previously held the planet in his hand and played with it. Behind the man stood two tall young women in cool battle armor. Damn it! This is too perfect, isn't it? Gao Ting Yufeng has a perfect waist-to-hip ratio, with long, slender, round, and straight legs. Her figure, face, and skin are both excellent. The exquisite battle armor worn by the two is woven from a combination of special leather, fabric, and metal. The clothing materials have a special glossy texture, and the clothes appear three-dimensional under the support of leather and metal. These two women, aren't they fairies? This place can't be the fairyland, can it? My phone and wallet are still there, and I haven't changed my clothes either. I shouldn't have hung up. The man saw Lu Yu's movements and didn't speak, so he sat quietly sipping tea. Lu Yu and the two beautiful women stared wide-eyed for a while. Who are you? The man seemed to have not heard Lu Yu's question and only drank tea on his own. Why did you bring me here? Lu Yu said again. The man finally shifted his gaze from the teacup, looked at him, and slowly said, I am the Creator God. Lu Yu was startled in his heart. The Creator God. Isn't that a god of the same level, omniscient and omnipotent? How could this be possible? There is no truly omniscient and omnipotent deity in this world, but there are those who are close, and I am that kind. How could you see through my thoughts? Not only can I see through your thoughts, but I also know what you will say next. I'll go. It's so amazing. You. Even if you're really a creator, why did you bring me here? Lu Yu felt his heart almost beating out. I'm here to see you off, the man said calmly. Let's take a stroll first, chat while walking, and you can see the beautiful scenery of the Sun Palace. The man smiled and stood up, walking towards the corridor. Lu Yu quickly followed suit. Why are their clothes so beautiful? They have carved dragons and phoenixes on them, just like those in the original paintings or 3D animations I used to watch. Lu Yu looked down at his T-dot shirt, which was a replica of an industrial assembly line. It was a piece of cloth with different patterns painted on it, making it look very monotonous. The surrounding buildings are also different from ancient buildings seen on Earth. Compared to ancient buildings on Earth, their structures are more complex and exquisite, and the paint used is also of extremely beautiful color. Lu Yudao said, "Are you really a creator god?" Seeing that the man didn't respond, Lu Yu said again, "What do you mean by saying, 'Give me a chance'?" The so-called chance is that I want you to become my heir and the new creator god in this world. Lu Yu was stunned by the man's words. The man began to introduce the Sun Palace and inheritance-related matters to Lu Yu. This palace is massive in scale, with even large lakes and primitive forests inside. Do you think the ability of omniscience and omnipotence is good or bad for a deity? The man suddenly said. Well, I'm not too clear either. Perhaps. The man stopped in his tracks. Everything emphasizes balance. While omniscience and omnipotence may bring endless benefits, it actually comes with many pains. Lu Yu felt a moment of confusion as he listened. He was just an ordinary person with no strength in his hands, and how could he understand these things? This is related to my inheritance of creation. To avoid the pain caused by omniscience and omnipotence, I will adopt a special approach for this inheritance. Special methods. When the time comes, I will erase my consciousness and merge with you. At that time, I will no longer be the existence of life, but will transform into a body of laws, and you will replace me as the new creator god. After listening for a while, Lu Yu finally understood a bit. According to men, the separation of strength and consciousness is the best. This special inheritance method will enable oneself to become both a mortal and an omniscient creator god. The two quickly arrived at the edge of a lake. The lake water is very clear, and you can see some beautiful little fish swimming inside. In the distance, there was a magnificent small boat floating, and a few people on it were curiously watching and chatting. The man strolled around with Lu Yu for a while, chatted about some things, then waved his hand, and Lu Yu instantly returned to the earth room. You calm down first, and we will have the fusion ceremony tomorrow noon. The man's voice came to his ear. Lu Yu stood there dumbfounded, constantly recalling what the man had just said in his mind. Approaching omniscience and omnipotence. This is not simply invincible power. If a man's words are true, it doesn't mean that any magical power like golden finger in novels can be achieved. You can travel around the world with beautiful women, realize any previous ideas, ideals, hobbies, and do anything you once wanted to do. I can see anyone I want to see. Endless glory, wealth, and longevity can be achieved in any life, the life one previously wanted. This is simply terrifying. Lu Yu turned his head to look at the computer, quickly walked over, sat down, opened his browser, and searched for information about the Creator God online. I searched for a long time, but couldn't find any valuable clues. He stood up again, pacing back and forth in the room, unable to sleep peacefully. Chapter 2. Omnipotent and Versatile. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day Lu Yu was restless and waited in the room for several hours. Finally, at a certain moment, the air in the room fluctuated and the figure of the so-called creator appeared. We're going to the Xiandian universe now, the man said and disappeared out of thin air with Lu Yu. When Lu Yu saw it again, he found himself on a huge square. Not far in front of it was a magnificent building with a unique style. Let's go. After speaking, the man walked towards the main hall on his own. In this world, but there are more powerful gods than you. Lu Yu chased after the man and asked. Not really. I am the source of the gods and the most powerful being in the world. They walked and chatted, and soon arrived at the palace. Next is the fusion ceremony, let's start, the man said, slowly closing his eyes and sitting cross-legged in the air. Lu Yu felt his body light and lose consciousness. The man spent a lot of time transforming his once powerful body and soul into a palm-sized purple flame, and then integrating the flame into the center of Lu Yu's soul. Lu Yu slowly opened his eyes and fell to the ground, finally completing the entire fusion process. As soon as he stood firm, he felt a sudden surge of memories in his mind. Through those memories, Lu Yu learned that the previous creator deity was named Zhou. I am now a special existence. Although I am a creator god, my physical body and soul are basically no different from ordinary people from a certain perspective. All the magical powers that are close to omniscient and omnipotent require the help of the universe to achieve them. Lu Yu trembled and extended his hands, looking at his own hands and the whole world, feeling as if everything was beautiful as a dream. Thank you for sacrificing yourself and fulfilling me, Lu Yu murmured. Don't thank me, whether you thank me or hate me, it doesn't mean much to me now. I'm just a legal entity and can't be considered a life anymore. Suddenly, the voice of Zhou rang out in Lu Yu's mind. Actually, any thoughts or emotions you have, just like before, I know them even if you don't say it. Lu Yu thought for a moment and said, what do I need to do now? Or should I go back to Earth? You first create some new universes, and I will take you to the original space where the new universe was created. When creating a new universe, all you need to do is sleep. I will read your memories of emotions and desires, combined with the legendary civilization and culture of Earth, as well as some of my experience rules to create. After the new universe is created, I will accelerate its time. In a very short time, a prosperous human civilization will appear in the new universe. Lu Yu was pondering Xuanhuan's words when Zhou interrupted his thoughts and said, let's go. I'll explain it to you in detail later. As soon as Zhou finished speaking, Lu Yu disappeared from the square. Lu Yu found himself in an endless, golden mist-filled place, suspended in that space and unable to feel any gravity. Let's get started. As soon as Lu Yu heard this sentence, his mind went dizzy and he lost consciousness. Under the control of the mysterious universe, the infinite energy of the original space began to converge. As the energy increased, countless singularities appeared, followed by explosions, forming countless primitive universes. Time in the new universe began to accelerate, and in just a few breaths, those universes operated for over 10 billion years. Some primitive life began to appear in various universes, and they multiplied and evolved under the guidance of the heavenly way. The process of historical civilization also quietly guided by the heavenly way, developing towards a predetermined trajectory. The creation of the new universe has finally been completed, and Zhou has cancelled its control over the acceleration of time in the new universe, and its time begins to pass normally. Lu Yu opened his eyes. The creation has been completed, Lu Yu's voice rang out in his mind. How many new universes have been created in total? There are billions of multiverse, ordinary universe, and micro-universe each. Lu Yu and Zhou started chatting. What shocked Lu Yu was that Zhou had created so many universes in just a few breaths, accelerating the time in those new universes by over 10 billion years. There are many types of universes created this time, such as fairy tales, cultivation, magic, fantasy, science fiction, martial arts, and so on. There are also some universes that are quite unique, created solely based on Lu Yu's inspiration or Earth novels, movies, games, and animations. Lu Yudao said, what do you mean by the ordinary universe, multiverse, and microcosm you just mentioned? Microverse, as its name suggests, is actually a relatively small universe, most of which are only the size of the solar or Milky Way galaxy. The ordinary universe is like the universe where Earth is located, with only a single plane. The multiverse is a super-universe that contains countless planes of varying sizes. What is the difference between a plane and the universe? The universe contains planes, which are more independent compared to planes. Are there any differences in their sizes? No difference. The size of the planes is uncertain, and some of them may be larger than the multiverse, containing countless planes within the superplane. Lu Yu looked at his arm and found that his skin was actually very good. Why is this skin different from before? The muscle lines are so perfect. Can you help me turn a mirror out? As soon as Lu Yu finished speaking, the space in front of him fluctuated and a large mirror appeared. What is this? Oh my! That's really good. In the mirror, I saw myself with a slender waist and wide shoulders, soared eyebrows, starry eyes, long eyelashes, and a high nose bridge, seemingly handsome and earth-shattering. Haha. This kind of body shape ratio is the standard. These long legs don't even need to wear height-increasing shoes, and wearing them will only make the proportion of legs too long look unattractive. Did you help me with this? Lu Yu asked in his mind. I helped you transform your appearance and figure. Your current height is 180 centimeters. Oh. This height is just right. Zhou, I don't know anything about magic and supernatural powers. How should I use magic? Lu Yu said while observing the texture pattern on his sleeve. You just need to think about those spells with your mind, and I will help you implement the rest. The spells follow your heart, and all the magical powers that your mind can possess can be realized. So simple. Lu Yu pondered for a moment and slowly closed his eyes, thinking of himself standing somewhere outside the Earth's atmosphere. When I opened my eyes again, I realized that I had actually gone to outer space. The surroundings were incredibly quiet, and beneath my feet was the massive Earth. Lu Yu gently closed his eyes again, imagining himself standing outside Jupiter's atmosphere in his mind. For Jupiter, it's just a blurry image in his mind. Just like before, I really teleported to the side of Jupiter. Lu Yu looked at Jupiter's beautiful halo for a while, and in a blink of an eye, he was inside Jupiter's ring. Looking around, I didn't see anything. Why can't I see any meteorites? Jupiter's halo is composed of sub-micron-sized dust, so you cannot see it. Lu Yu felt a bit disappointed, but soon his attention was drawn to the emerald-like Jupiter in front of him. Chapter 3. Jupiter and Mars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the planet with the largest mass in the solar system, Jupiter has a volume over 1,000 times that of Earth. Standing here, you can see many storm belts and ice spots on the surface of Jupiter, including the famous Jupiter Great Red Spot Storm. Lu Yu vaguely remembered that this large red spot was slightly larger than the Earth, with wind speeds of hundreds of kilometers per hour inside. The storm had not stopped for hundreds of years since its discovery. Lu Yu was a bit impatient and wanted to see the scenery below Jupiter's atmosphere. He no longer wanted to bend down and fly towards Jupiter. Just a few seconds later, we approached Jupiter's atmosphere, and as we gradually deepened, the surrounding sky became darker and darker. The entire space is occasionally illuminated by flickering lightning. Finally, faintly, I saw Jupiter's liquid hydrogen ocean, with fierce winds raging and the sky and earth becoming turbid. Lu Yu stopped, his mind stirred, and the space around him for hundreds of kilometers instantly quieted down. He extended his tightly clenched right hand and opened his palm. Suddenly, a dazzling ball of light appeared in the distant sky, illuminating the space. He hovered over the ocean like this, looking at the ocean of liquid hydrogen and couldn't help but marvel at the abundance of hydrogen on Jupiter. If these hydrogen are used for energy, humans may not be able to use them up for billions of years. Lu Yu had only seen hydrogen balloons before, and it was hard to imagine how much hydrogen they were composed of in this boundless ocean of hydrogen. After waiting in the sky for a few minutes, the whole world finally became much clearer. He slowly flew down, and when he was still more than 10 meters away from the sea, his mind moved and he fell into the hydrogen ocean under his feet. Lu Yu has never been able to swim since childhood, so now he can only kick around in it with his hands and feet, which is not elegant. He swam out of the sea and diving underwater, playing excitedly, carefully feeling the feeling of liquid hydrogen bathing. These liquids are actually different from water, a bit slippery. Haha. I can be considered the first person on Earth to bathe with hydrogen. The sea here has a slight metallic luster, which makes people feel very strange. The scenery here is so unique. In the future, if you have time, you can build a house here, bring a group of beautiful women, and come here for vacation. It's not beautiful. Of course, you can also build a magnificent palace here, which will definitely have a unique flavor. After swimming for a while, Lu Yu stopped again. He closed his eyes and summoned a beautiful woman with excellent figure and appearance. Ah! Puff! Lu Yu plunged into the sea and saw a beautiful figure in the distance with hands and feet kicking wildly. He slowly approached the beautiful woman and hugged her, slowly floating to the sea. When the beautiful woman saw Lu Yu clearly, her face instantly turned pale. Who are you? I don't. I'm playing with my phone at home. I am Genesis. I'll go. This woman is so big and deep. The beautiful woman saw Lu Yu's gaze and quickly released a hand to cover herself. Lu Yu shifted his gaze as if nothing had happened and said, I am the Creator God. The beautiful woman was stunned by his words. Don't you believe it? Lu Yu made a move and the nearby sea roared, and a cruise ship immediately appeared out of thin air. He hugged the beautiful woman's waist and gracefully floated onto the cruise ship. The woman's body trembled slightly with fear. What's your name? My name is Lin Yu. Good name, Yu. Why did you bring me here? Me. Oh. Let you accompany me to enjoy the scenery and relax. Lu Yu directly entered the topic and said, let's make a deal. What? I can fulfill your wish, and as a transaction, you also have to fulfill my wish. The girl stuttered and said, do you have any wishes? Lu Yudao said, After listening, the girl's face immediately turned red. How about it? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Seeing that the girl was still hesitating, Lu Yu used some magical techniques again, which left her stunned. Are you really? Can any of my wishes come true? Of course, you just saw my methods, there's nothing I can't do in this world. After thinking for a while, the girl finally after more than 2 hours after entangled with the girl for a while, Lu Yu continued to help her fulfill her wish. The girl said she wanted to travel to the world of immortality and even gave her a powerful cultivation technique, which was not a troublesome wish. Lu Yu stood up, exercised his muscles and bones, and jumped off the sea to start swimming. Where are you going now? Mars. With a loud bang, the sea beneath Lu Yu was shattered, and his body flew into the sky like a shell. A large sonic boom cloud formed behind him, and soon no one was seen. Lu Yu appeared outside the atmosphere of Jupiter. The clothes have dried out. Did liquid hydrogen evaporate? Lu Yu stopped pondering and appeared next to Mars in the next moment. The red planet in the distance was exactly the expected Mars, and he flashed onto the surface of Mars. The thin atmosphere of Mars has little obstruction to starlight, and the distant sun and stars can be clearly seen. The sky and earth here all present a unique red color, and the surrounding environment gives people a feeling of desolation and loneliness. He thought he would come here to build a house in the future. Lu Yu slowly squatted down and grabbed a handful of soil from the ground. Inside these soils, there are no bacteria or viruses, so they can be considered absolutely clean. After staying on Mars for a while, Lu Yu teleported to the sky above the Sun Palace. The surrounding light is abundant, and he has not yet adapted, feeling a bit dazzling. Turning his head to look at the sun next to him, the huge prominence was still incredibly shocking. Lu Yu asked Zhou, and it turned out that the Sun Palace is no longer in the universe where the Earth is located, but has been moved by him to a cultivation universe. Because the universe where the Sun Palace is located was created by drawing inspiration from Earth's mythological civilization, the star next to the Sun Palace is actually called the Sun. The Sun Palace is now a palace belonging to the Cloud Sword Empire, and Zhou arranged for him to have an emperor's identity in the Cloud Sword Empire. Due to the enclosed protection of the Sun Palace, the surrounding temperature is extremely high. The sun in this universe also contains the power of the sun, so except for the teleportation array, other methods cannot enter the Sun Palace. In the middle of the Sun Palace and within the palace of the Cloud Sword Empire, there is a teleportation array, but the teleportation array is rarely activated. Chapter 4. European Castles. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Last time Lu Yu came here, it could only be considered a fleeting glance. This time, he needs to take a good look at this palace. He looks and touches it carefully. The style of this palace is particularly beautiful, with an overall pure and bright color tone that looks spotless and clean. It looks a bit dazzling under the scorching sun. Lu Yu jumped up and flew onto the wall, then into the courtyard. In the center of the yard, there are several water tanks planted with lotus flowers, and next to the tanks, there are 5 women dressed in relatively cool clothes, tall and talking about something. A few people saw Lu Yu coming in and quickly stopped talking. They walked forward and saluted, "See you, Emperor." These women all wore light makeup, with natural and beautiful looks, and their clothes were very exquisite, similar in style to the 2 women around Zhou before. Their figures are also excellent, with the appropriate shape, size, and position of the jade peak. Their large and long legs are perfectly proportioned, full and round, and their perfect waist-to-hip ratio complements their delicate lower abdomen. One of the 5 people is of the slightly overweight type, while the other 4 have a normal body shape that is neither fat nor thin. Looking at the several beautiful women kneeling, Lu Yu felt a little nervous for a moment. What should we do now? Well, Now. Let's all be flat. Who are these people? How do they know that I am the emperor? Lu Yu turned around and asked Zhou in his mind. It's a palace maid who takes care of this water tank and the palace of the uterus. Before you came here, your Xianying double had already succeeded to the throne of the Cloud Sword Empire for several years, so they naturally recognized you. Do you have a double? The Xianying double is a special type of double that perfectly simulates your appearance, personality, speech, and behavior. However, it lacks emotions, desires, and soul, and cannot be considered a true human. Oh. This kind of double is quite good, it may be useful in the future. Lu Yu walked over to the water tank and carefully explored it. There were some strange patterns on the surface of the water tank, which were also inlaid with gold edges and some gemstones. The entire cylinder body was also made of jade-like stones. In addition to lotus flowers, there are also some emerald vines and unique small fish in the water tank, and some red fruits are also grown on the vines. This type of fruit has the same effect as the dingrong pill. As long as you take one, although it cannot prolong life, it can make your appearance achieve youthfulness and longevity. Lu Yu was not familiar with those fruits and had little interest in them. He rolled up his sleeves and picked them up inside. Several palace maids beside him watched his movements and looked at each other, covering their mouths and beginning to giggle. Lu Yu quickly stood up straight, pretending to be calm, secretly calculating what to say to these beautiful women. Lu Yu said to the palace maid who had just laughed the most happily, "What's your name?" "Return to the emperor, my servant's name is Xiao." "Oh. Xiao. Did you just laugh at me?" "I dare not." Xiao quickly knelt down. "Dare not. I dare not laugh the happiest just now, this girl." "You come with me," Lu Yu said and walked straight to the palace ahead. About 3 hours later Lu Yu lay comfortably on the bed, staring at the tent on the top of the bed in a daze. These days are so carefree and joyful. "Now go and take a look at the Wild Star Castle," Zhou suddenly said while Lu Yu was in a daze. "What? Hey! What are you doing somewhere else? And go take a look elsewhere first, and come back later here. You! Why do you still have to manage what I do? I will impose minor restrictions on you when necessary. If I don't listen to you, will you stop me from being this creator god? No, once we merge, it's impossible to separate again. This is not as simple as meeting face-to-face. Don't worry, my decisions have a reason and will definitely not harm you." Well, forget it. Or, where is the Wild Star Castle? Wilderness Star Castle is a castle located on a planet called Wilderness Star, in the Wilderness universe. Its architectural style is mainly in the Gothic style of the Earth's west, and it will be an important residence for you in the future. The Wilderness universe is a universe created specifically for your needs. Only a small amount of inedible plants exist on the Wilderness Star, while other planets are purely barren and devoid of any life. You can stay away from the hustle and bustle of crowds and the shackles of worldly wisdom there, completely relax yourself, and enjoy quiet ancient European life. Your Majesty, you have promised me that I will be honored as a noble concubine in a few days, the palace maid beside him reminded me as she saw him in a daze. You have no joking words. When I come back in a few days, I will issue an edict to confer the title. Chapter 5. Return to Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lu Yu quickly arrived outside the palace and after strolling around the courtyard for a while, his figure instantly disappeared. He slowly opened his eyes, and what came into view was a desolate world. The sky was covered by thick dark clouds, and some light penetrated through the clouds, but the overall light was not very bright. Lu Yu found himself suspended in a height of over 30 meters, with a dense forest of cedars at his feet. Not far ahead, a deep and ancient castle stands on a steep rocky mountain. This magnificent castle is composed of over 10 buildings of various styles. Most of them are clustered together, built on this not-so-wide hill. The columnar towers behind the castle towered into the clouds, seemingly telling the story of its past prosperity. The rocky walls of the mountain and the sparse vegetation around it, along with exposed rocks and sand, make the environment more filled with a desolate atmosphere. Lu Yu controlled his body and slowly flew towards the castle, feeling very excited. Midway through, he saw a strange thing at the foot of the mountain and adjusted his flight direction, slowly flying towards that direction. It wasn't until it flew closer that I realized it was actually a stone tablet. It is carved with strange patterns and some characters, many of which are worn out. There are still some words under the stone tablet, but they are covered by sand and soil. Lu Yu's poor English proficiency made him unable to understand a few words. Lu Yu had no choice but to ask Zhou. Through Xuanhuan's explanation, he learned that the former owner of the castle was a dark wizard. Former owner. This castle was transported by me from a magical universe. Lu Yu no longer studied the stone tablet, squatted down and made a high jump, directly jumping onto the broken bridge in front of the castle gate. The castle gate was originally connected to a bridge, but now the bridge is broken, leaving only the side connected to the castle gate. He stopped looking and quickly arrived at the castle. The castle is only slightly dilapidated, but overall it is quite luxurious. In the corridor upstairs, a woman with a graceful figure slowly walked over. What's going on with that woman? That is a person who has traveled from another universe, and can chat with you to relieve boredom in the future. Oh. Not bad, you arranged quite thoughtfully. Zhou said again, let's go back to Shenming City now. Shenming City. I can be considered a return to Earth now, Lu Yu instantly returned to Earth, his body suspended at an altitude of several thousand meters in Shenming City. The scenery here is quite beautiful, but it looks a bit limp. Looking around, I found a passenger plane in the distance. At the next moment, Lu Yuren was already at the top of the aircraft's fuselage. Under the protection of divine power, the surrounding wind had no impact on him. Lu Yu looked curiously at the plane under his feet, crouched down and groped for the outer shell with his hands, then stood up and slowly walked towards the nose of the plane. When he was about 1 meter away from the driver's window, he slowly lay down and crawled towards the side of the driver's window. In the cockpit of the plane, the co-pilot was chatting bored with the captain. Lao Li, your daughter took the exam this time. Grass. What is that thing? Before the co-pilot could finish speaking, Lu Yu, who was peeking out from the cockpit, jumped out of his seat in fear. Old Li quickly followed the co-pilot's gaze, but did not see anything. "What did you see, kid? Why did you react like that?" "Lao Li, I just saw a face outside the glass window." Old Li was stunned, turned his head to look at the glass, and then looked at the co-pilot with a strange expression. "You're feeling dizzy, right? That's outside the plane, how could there be anyone?" The co-pilot's expression was solemn, and he slowly walked over to the captain's side, holding on to the control console and carefully peering up. "Well, to hell with it." After looking for a while, Lu Yu withdrew his head. He sat up and thought for a moment, then his mind moved and he attached himself to a man in the first-class cabin of the plane. So first class is like this. This divine power is great. Lu Yu carefully looked around and occasionally carefully explored those things. He came to a mirror, wanting to see the appearance of the possessed person. Oh. He's still a handsome guy. Lu Yu looked in the mirror for a while and suddenly saw a row of buttons under the mirror. He pressed one of them with his fingers, and immediately a row of chilled drinks came up next to him. He picked up a bottle of chilled cola, opened the bottle cap, and started drinking. He came to the glass of the nearby bathroom and looked up, vaguely seeing someone taking a shower inside. Lu Yu reached into his pocket and took out a phone and a wallet. There are some ancient coins and some ID cards in the wallet. I took out one of the black cards and found that it looked quite strange, with many three-dimensional patterns on it. "This is a black gold card," Zhou reminded. "So this is the legendary black gold card. How much money is in this card?" "More than 13 million. So many. Indeed, he is a wealthy young master." Lu Yu put the card into his wallet and threw it aside. Following Xuanhuan's instructions, he unlocked the phone. This man is still a charming figure. After looking at the photo for a while, Lu Yu put his phone back in his pocket. "Shouldn't you summon a zombie or a ghost to come out? It would be a terrorist flight. However, it's better not to do it. Let's talk about it next time." Lu Yu stood up and returned to the top of the aircraft's fuselage. The man possessed by Lu Yu looked at the drink in his hand with a bewildered expression on his face. When he realized it, he immediately threw away all the drinks in fear. Lu Yu was too lazy to care about the man's situation and teleported to his rented house. Lu Yu waved his hand and a large amount of money appeared on the floor of the room, which was piled up in a disorderly manner, about 1 meter high. He smiled slightly and lay on top of the money, using it directly as a bed. Picking up the money and throwing it up, the room immediately saw a flurry of banknotes falling. Scattering money feels like this. After a tinkling metallic sound, the money under me was gradually replaced by pieces of gold bricks. Lu Yu used his hand to pick up the golden bricks, threw them up, and reached out to catch one of them. There is an ancient copper coin pattern on the gold brick, as well as some English and Chinese characters. After a while, he stood up again, and the golden brick under his feet automatically disappeared. Lu Yu's body slowly drifted to the ground, becoming invisible. He went to the window to look outside and teleported to the street. An electric car slowly drove towards him not far away, and he extended a finger to try to guide the direction of the car's movement. The person riding the bike suddenly felt that the front of the car was out of control and turned automatically to collide with the side. In a burst of exclamation, the car crashed directly into the nearby wall. Lu Yu almost burst out laughing. After watching the excitement for a while, he went to the nearby small supermarket to stroll around and experience the feeling of invisibility. After wandering on the street for a while, Lu Yu suddenly disappeared and appeared in the hallway of the upscale community across the street. He paced through the wall in front of him and entered the room. This family is a couple living with their children. The man is busy cooking in the kitchen, the woman is lying on the sofa playing with her phone, and a little boy about 3 years old is sitting on the ground playing with toys. Lu Yu stopped looking and walked through the wall into another house. I didn't see anyone this time. There were some fruits on the living room table, and he slowly walked over and picked up a few kumquats to eat while walking. Lu Yu tiptoed into the room and found a woman lying in bed, with a thin summer blanket covering her belly. He looked at the bedside table, picked up a paintbrush on top, and drew a big flower face for the woman. The technique is not good, the drawing is crooked. Lu Yu shook his head while drawing. Lu Yu put down the pen in his hand, strolled around the bedroom, then went to the living room, removed his invisibility, picked up the headphones and phone on the table, opened the music player on his phone, and began listening to music. He listened to Naida while walking lightly in the living room, his whole body swaying with the rhythm of the music, completely releasing himself. Bang! Bang! Lu Yu unexpectedly bumped into the table and some fruit objects fell to the ground. He quickly took off his earphones, threw things onto the nearby sofa, and walked through the wall to the next house. It was also because Lu Yu was too anxious and didn't look ahead even after passing through the wall, that he unexpectedly bumped into a strange woman. Ouch! You actually. Lu Yu's mind was busy and her memory was instantly altered. The woman's complex expression of surprise suddenly faded away and turned into a calm expression. What expression are you on? What are you looking at me for? Ouch! It hurts so much. The woman covered her forehead and slowly walked to the side. You're not going to eat yet. When your parents come back, they'll scold you again. The woman stopped and turned to Lu Yu. She carefully looked at Lu Yu and suddenly walked back, saying, "Why do you also have a bag on your head? I just bumped into this." You don't remember? Lu Yu asked softly. Remember what? Oh. Remember. Nothing. Lu Yu exclaimed curiously, "What's wrong with your forehead?" I just slipped in the bathroom and hit the wall. It became my own collision. Lu Yu whispered to the woman, "Who am I?" The woman was taken aback and stared at Lu Yu, saying, "What's wrong with you today? You're talking inexplicably." Oh. Hee. I won't talk to you for now. I'll go change my clothes and go shopping later. Oh. Then you go. Lu Yu wandered around the house. Can you instantly modify all the memories of the universe and all living beings in the world? Lu Yu said to Zhou in his mind. Sure, I am almost omniscient and capable. I can do almost anything you can think of. Not just memories, I can instantly change all things in the past, present, and future at the same time. Lu Yu stopped in his tracks. It can still be like this. Lu Yu and Zhou had a detailed conversation. After a while, he sat down again at the sofa, searched nearby, found the remote control, and started watching TV. Is there a universe in the universe I created that is the same as Earth in the 21st century? Lu Yu asked Zhou while strolling in the living room. There are many, and their familiarity is also extremely high, equivalent to another Earth. Oh. Not bad, then you can teleport me over now. Good. Lu Yu modified the previous memory of the woman and then closed his eyes. Lu Yu slowly opened his eyes and looked below, realizing that it was a dilapidated modern city, with many high-rise buildings in the distance collapsing. How could this be happening here? War is taking place here. The entire city has been under occupation for over a month now. Lu Yu flashed and appeared next to a street, with dilapidated houses, collapsed billboards and streetlights, burned cars, and bullet marks everywhere. Occasional gunshots and explosions could be heard in the distance. Chapter 6. Days after. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lu Yu walked slowly, looking curiously at the surrounding scenery. Before he could go much further, he suddenly heard the cries and mournful cries of a woman coming from a nearby room. Following the sound, Lu Yu walked through a broken wall and arrived at a courtyard. Not far away, a man was smashing a woman with a stool. What's going on over there? It's a soldier who's trying to invade that woman. Lu Yu slowly walked into the room, and the man turned his head and saw Lu Yu entering. The man was startled and quietly reached for the gun on his waist. Lu Yu looked at the woman on the ground and found that she was very beautiful and had a good figure. However, due to her tight attire, it was difficult to distinguish in detail. The man pulled out a pistol and pointed it at Lu Yu, saying in a language that Lu Yu couldn't understand, "Who are you? Why did you come in?" "Zhou, what did this man say?" "He asked why you came in." Lu Yu couldn't speak the language of a man and didn't want to argue with him, so he slowly extended his right hand. The man frowned and pulled the trigger when he saw Lu Yu's movements. With a loud bang, a bullet flew towards Lu Yu's head. Ah! The woman screamed in fear. Lu Yu suddenly felt his body out of control and automatically extended 2 fingers of his right hand to clamp the bullet. Lu Yu was taken aback and curiously looked at the bullet in front of him, realizing that the bullet had deformed from being pinched by his fingers. Sleeping slot. Fire cloud evil god. How could I automatically pick up bullets? I just took over control of your body temporarily. The voice of Zhou suddenly rang out in Lu Yu's mind. Take over. Oh. So that's how it is. The man murmured and swallowed his saliva, his eyes wide open, as if he had seen a ghost. The beautiful woman sitting on the ground was stunned when she saw the bullet held by Lu Yu's finger. The man felt a bit skeptical and fired 2 shots in a row, bang bang. Lu Yu raised his hand and caught 2 bullets with a loud thud, moving so fast that only the remnants could be seen. The man saw this and dared not shoot again, his hand holding the gun began to tremble. Lu Yu reached out and sucked the gun from the man's hand. After playing for a few seconds, he pointed it at the man. The man quickly knelt down and begged for mercy. I can't understand a single word. Lu Yu looked at the man with a cold expression and pulled the trigger directly. With a loud bang, the man's shoulder immediately splattered with blood. He let out a mournful cry and fell to the ground, beginning to scream in pain. Lu Yu no longer cared about the man, but slowly walked over and helped the woman up, taking her back to earth. The woman took a step back and looked incredulously at everything around her. Here. I was just not. Oh. This is where I live. What's wrong with me, suddenly arriving here? The woman seems to be very afraid of Lu Yu, and some dare not look at him. Well, how to put it, I just used my divine powers to bring you over. What about that, time travel, do you understand? Don't be nervous, sit down first. I'll go pour you a glass of water to drink. Lu Yu quickly arrived at the kitchen and brought a glass of water to the woman. The woman took the glass a few times and finished drinking it, then asked him for 3 more cups. Lu Yu chatted with the beautiful woman for a while, and after chatting for a while, she actually began to wriggle. When Lu Yu asked, it turned out that she was hungry. Lu Yu directly transformed into a table of delicious dishes. What's your name? My name is Fong Xiaoman, Xiaoman replied vaguely as he wolfed down his food. Oh. Zhou, this woman has been betrayed by that man. No. After the beautiful woman finished her meal, Lu Yu saw her dirty appearance and asked her to take a shower. When the beautiful woman took a good shower and came out, Lu Yu couldn't help but brighten up. Although she looked beautiful at first, her face was dirty and not very clear, and her clothes were too thick to show her figure. Now, as soon as she put on her shorts and vest, her beautiful figure immediately appeared. Lu Yu took the initiative to chat with Xiaoman and asked him about the situation in detail. It turned out that Xiaoman's country was currently at war, and the situation was not very good yet. He was afraid that in a few months, it would completely fall. You're so amazing, can you help me save my family and the country? In Xiaoman's mind, if Lu Yu, such a powerful figure, wanted to help her, it would be about using his fingers. Oh. Lu Yu thought to himself, Zhou, let's create a system for Xuanhuan. You don't need a very powerful system, as long as it can help Xuanhuan save his family and win the war within a few months. Zhou instantly completed a system. Lu Yu waved his hand and a small ball of light appeared in front of him, emitting a soft glow. What system is this? An infinite explosive weapon system. The light ball slowly drifted towards Xuanhuan and integrated into his body. Lu Yu introduced the system to Xuanhuan, and a few minutes later, he sent her back to the original universe. Now, let me take you to a cultivation universe to meet someone. Just as Lu Yu sat down, the voice of Zhou suddenly rang in his mind. Oh. Who are you going to see? Go meet a woman named Xue. She is very important to you and may become a queen in the future. After the day. It's the godmother, Zhou explained. The person I'm taking you to meet is the one who is most likely to become the queen. Before going to see Xue, I'll dress you up. Xuanzhou's mind suddenly changed, and Lu Yu's T-shirt and casual pants suddenly disappeared, replaced by a white wide-sleeved ancient costume. His hair also quickly grew into long hair, automatically being restrained. At the next moment, a mirror appeared in front of Lu Yu. Lu Yu looked left and right, touching his belt and sleeves, touching his hair and tie. He really liked this outfit. The style of the clothes on Lu Yu's body is not very complicated, it is made of pure fabric, and there is no metal or leather material on it. However, the luster and texture of the fabric on this clothes are very good. Lu Yu discovered that he had an extra ring in his hand, which was very unique. On the surface of the ring, there was a dragon coiled in a vortex shape, with a dragon head in the middle and a smooth blue gemstone in his mouth. It looked like a galaxy, and the blue gemstone was like a black hole in the middle of the galaxy. Lu Yu looked at the ancient ring and was momentarily mesmerized. This is the Panlong ring, a spatial ring. Lu Yu carefully observed the ring and found some beautiful patterns and strange words carved on it. How should I use this? Just like using magic, as long as you think about it, a picture of the space inside the ring will appear in your mind. If you want to take out something, just think about it and the item will appear in the palm of the person wearing the ring. If you want to put the item inside, just put your hand close to it and think about collecting it. Lu Yu tried to close his eyes and imagine, and sure enough, a picture of space appeared in his mind, which was boundless and extremely broad. Lu Yu withdrew his thoughts and said, "We should be ready now. Shall we set off now?" Yes. As soon as Xuanzhou's mind turned, Lu Yu disappeared from his original position. Lu Yu looked around and found himself floating above the roof of an ancient building. The whole world is so beautiful, full of immortal and chivalrous aura, without any trace of industrial society. Chapter 7. Cultivation World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Those ancient buildings are all carved with beams and embroidered households. Some of them are standalone buildings, while others are stacked with layers. The structures that attract grass and hang fish are exquisite and complex. Some buildings have 4 corners of their roofs and gorgeous raised feet. The paint used in the building, like the Sun Palace, looks extremely beautiful in color. Lu Yu looked at the street market downstairs and found that there were many people below, and the crowd extended far away. Is the cultivation world I have created so prosperous? There are also differences in economic backwardness, cultivation systems, and social systems, which can lead to the emergence of different styles and types of immortal and chivalrous universes. Lu Yu looked in the other direction and found a tall tower in the distance, estimated to be over 100 meters high. In the other direction, there was a huge ancient architectural complex built on a high platform. Is that a certain cultivation family over there? If you have time in the future, you need to go there and take a stroll. Lu Yu looked up and saw a noisy conversation upstairs, but he didn't know where it was. He tugged at the complex structures and slowly climbed up to the upper level. Above is a large open attic, inside it is noisy, with many people eating, drinking, and chatting. Around the attic, it is simply surrounded by railings. Sitting on the side to eat, one can also see the scenery of the crowd below. Lu Yu climbed over the railing and arrived at the attic. He carefully examined it and found that whether it was in the Sun Palace or here, the clothes worn by people in this world of cultivation were similar in style and materials. Many people in the attic were woven from a combination of fabric, leather, and metal, and those women wore cool and sexy clothes. Some of them were wearing battle armor, leather short skirts, while others were wearing casual clothing. Of course, the clothes were made of pure fabric or mainly made of fabric, with only simple decoration of metal leather on them. There were also many people wearing them. Lu Yu saw a long-legged girl with her legs crossed. She looked at her lower body alone, but couldn't understand her upper body and face, which were covered by a long white veil. Lu Yu paced and sat down in front of the long-legged beauty table. The beautiful woman suddenly sat at her desk when she saw a stranger, her eyebrows furrowed slightly, and a hint of displeasure flashed on her face. "Excuse me, Mississippi. Can you chat with me for a moment?" "What's up, young master?" "Oh. As for the next fortune teller, Miss Guan's luck is a bit strange. There may be some troubles in the family recently." Of course, all of these were actually told by Zhou to Lu Yu. The hand of the beautiful woman serving tea trembled slightly. "Who the hell are you?" "Oh. Girls don't need to panic. As I've said before, I'm just a fortune teller." The two of them started chatting, and after several twists and turns, the woman saw that Lu Yu seemed not to be sent by her opponent, and her vigilance decreased significantly. The beautiful woman's expression softened a bit and she said, "Young master, do you have a way to crack it?" "Difficult. Miss, this time. I'm afraid it's inevitable." Lu Yu pretended to be profound and unpredictable, but he was not talking nonsense. According to Zhou, if he didn't intervene, the fate of this girl and her family would be very tragic, and he could be considered doing a good deed. The beautiful woman hesitated for a moment and said, "If the young master intends to help, please move upstairs and discuss in detail in a private room." "Oh. Sure, I have nothing to do now anyway." The beautiful woman stood up and smiled, "Young master, please come with me." With that, he went straight to the next staircase and called a waiter. Led by the waiter, the two quickly arrived at a private room. The girl took off her veil and revealed a delicate face. It's also top-notch up there." The girl didn't get angry when she saw Lu Yu's gaze, so she sat down. Lu Yu poured a cup of tea for the girl and said, "Do you dare to ask the girl's name? The little woman is charming with snow. How do you call the young master?" "Oh. I'm Lu Yu." After chatting for a while, the beautiful woman saw that Lu Yu had something to say and said directly, "Mr. Lu came to chat with me. I'm afraid he's not just asking for his name." Lu Yu thought to himself, of course not just asking for the name. Mei Shui saw that Lu Yu was silent and said, "Young Master Lu, why don't you speak up? I do have a method that can help the girl's family overcome this calamity." "Just." Lu Yu's eyes were not honest again. Mei Shui had no displeased expression and said, "What conditions do you have, young master? The little girl's family also has some wealth. If you can really help the little girl overcome this calamity, then all the spiritual stones and golden techniques within the clan can be presented." Lu Yu pretended to be profound and said, "I'm not interested in those things." After speaking, he glanced at Mei Shui's beautiful figure. Mei Shui's face turned slightly red, but she understood Lu Yu's meaning. Lu Yu lightly brushed his sleeves, and the private door instantly closed. He waved again, and next to him appeared a golden pill late-stage corpse puppet. Mei Shui was startled and immediately wanted to draw her sword. "Hey, girl, please calm down." Lu Yu quickly stood up. "Why did you summon a corpse puppet?" Surprisingly, it is still the existence of the later stage of the golden elixir. Who are you? Miss, don't get excited for now. Please sit down first. With this zombie puppet, your family can safely weather this crisis. Do you want to personally take action? I can give you this corpse puppet as a gift. What? Mei Xue's expression was complex, and she couldn't believe it for a moment. I can establish a contract with you now. Lu Yu waved his hand and a golden symbol floated out of the corpse puppet's head. The symbol slowly drifted towards Mei Xue and fell into her forehead. Mei Xue only felt that she had established an inexplicable telepathy with the corpse puppet, and she knew that the contract had indeed been successfully established just now. Mei Xue's face flushed with joy, and she was overjoyed. With this corpse puppet from the later stage of the golden elixir period, the family now has dozens more enemies, and she can deal with them all. This Mei Xue is also very intelligent and fully understands why Lu Yu suddenly gave her the corpse puppet of the golden elixir period. She hesitated for a moment and began to slowly, "My guest, your dishes are ready." Mei Xue gave her hands a scolding. Lu Yu quickly got up and walked out. "Don't disturb me within 2 hours," he said, turning out a silver ingot and handing it to the waiter. "Hey. Thank you, sir. I understand now and I promise no one will disturb you." Lu Yu quickly closed the door. After more than 3 hours, Mei Xue snuggled up in Lu Yu's arms and coquettishly said, "Young master, you're amazing. Just now. They were all so comfortable." Lu Yu looked at the beautiful woman in his arms. She was indeed a top-notch woman, and even before that, she was still intact. How about taking her into the Sun Palace? I have traveled to many cultivation planets and built a Sun Palace. Would you be willing to follow me and be my woman in the future? Lu Yu has an excellent figure now, and his face is extremely handsome. In fact, he has already captured the heart of this beautiful woman. Now when she heard Lu Yu say this, she was immediately delighted. "Mei Xue is willing, I will be your person from now on." More than an hour later, Lu Yu also inquired about Mei Xue's residence and asked her to go back to deal with the family crisis first, and then pick her up in a few days. Mei Xue had just left when a waiter came in and said, "Young master, would you like to bring your dishes in now?" Bring it in." Lu Yu ate for a while, lost some money to the waiter, picked up one of the chicken legs, opened the window, and flew out. Lu Yu jumped a few times and came to the roof of a house halfway. He saw a small tree growing in a flower pot on the balcony, and many vines in other flower pots. The small tree was covered with yellow grape-sized fruits. Lu Yu picked a little to eat and quickly arrived on the street. The people on the street were dressed the same as what he saw in a restaurant. He found that people in this world had makeup on their faces, either plain or light, and did not see heavy makeup, which was more in line with his taste. There are numerous stalls and shops on the street, including those selling food and entertainment, as well as those selling rare animals and strange things. Xianzhou, what is the currency system of this country like? The most valuable coin in this country is the top-grade spirit stone. One top-grade spirit stone is equivalent to 10 mid-grade spirit stones, one mid-grade spirit stone is equivalent to 10 low-grade spirit stones, one low-grade spirit stone is equivalent to 100 taels of gold, one tael of gold is equivalent to 10 taels of silver, and one tael of silver is equivalent to 1,000 won. Lu Yu thought he had nothing to do and directly transformed into the god of wealth, giving several bags of money to those who were relatively poor. In just a few minutes, being scattered by him is equivalent to billions of dollars on earth. Of course, Lu Yu didn't want to attract crowds, so a lot of money was quietly put in someone else's car bag. How about using divine power to turn the entire universe into a utopian universe? At that time, the entire universe, I don't know what kind of scenery it will become. It's not allowed to do this. Why not? No need to ask further, I will explain this to you later. Oh. Lu Yu actually casually asked, he is just like this, neither a great good person nor a great evil person, and has no interest in being a loving holy father. This is actually one of the reasons why Zhou chose him as his successor. Lu Yu wandered around the world of cultivation again, and after a while, he had a sudden idea to meet the characters in the history textbook. Note 1. The first-person chapter at the end is the true plot, while the front is just a prelude. If you want to see the invincible plot, you can skip to chapter 78 and start reading Note 2. There are many male and female protagonists in this book who love each other. If you don't like this type of article, you don't need to read it in the future to avoid wasting your time. Note 3. There was a major revision from chapters 1 to 40, which caused the plot to be a bit chaotic. After chapters 40, the storyline of the Wild Star Fortress remained unchanged, and the new storyline after the Wild Star Fortress will no longer be chaotic. Chapter 8. King Zhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lu Yu's body instantly disappeared from its original position, and when he reappeared, he was already in an antique palace. The style of this palace is somewhat different from that of the cultivation world, appearing more simple, just like the one he has seen in TV dramas. Lu Yu curiously observed the surroundings, and when he turned around, he found several people staring at him in the distance, staring blankly at the circular bed. The man holding a pastry in his hand was the famous tyrant in Chinese history, Emperor Xuanhuan of the Shang dynasty, and several beautiful women with curvy figures next to him were his concubines. Pop! The pastry in Dixin's hand fell directly onto the plate below. A few people were awakened by the sound, and there were screams. They all began to kick back and forth. Dixin pulled the concubine next to him and blocked her in front of him, as if it would make him feel safer. You. Although Dixin was the ruler of a country, he had never encountered such a situation before, and his words were so frightened that he stuttered. Lu Yu looked at the few people with a smile and didn't walk over, standing there with a smile. The soldier guarding the door did not come in because Lu Yu had already tampered with it. Are you a human or a ghost? Did he suddenly appear? Xuanhuan turned his head and asked the concubine next to him, who was dressed in traditional Chinese clothing and had a very good figure. Huida. Yes. Lu Yu couldn't help but feel amused when he saw these funny expressions on his face. He slowly walked over. Of course I am human, I have shadows, ghosts don't have them. You don't have to be afraid, I won't do anything to you. Lu Yu walked to the bedside, stepped on it, and sat down in front of a group of people. In summer, it's hot for you to stack up, isn't it? Lu Yu said, picking up the dim sum from the plate and throwing one into his mouth. He. Even if they don't overlap with each other, several people are scared and sweating now. Are you a fairy? Xuanhuan, after all, was a superior and quickly calmed down, but his voice still couldn't control the trembling. You can say that. This dim sum is delicious, Lu Yu said, putting a few pieces into his mouth. He. First. You guys move aside and crush me. After listening, several concubines quickly moved their bodies away, but they were still close to Emperor Xuanhuan. The immortal came to my sleeping palace, it's called. What's going on? I just came to see you, and by the way. Your concubines are quite good, aren't they? Tisk. My figure and face are much better than those on TV. Xuanhuan was completely confused when he heard this, and turned his head to look at the door. The hall was filled with flying chickens and dogs, and he didn't even see his guards enter. No need to look, they're all asleep. Xuanhuan pushed several concubines aside, shook his hands, sorted his clothes, and pointed to a concubine next to him, saying, Go. Go pour wine for the immortal. Ah. Go quickly. King. The concubine next to her is a bit reluctant, her eyebrows are almost 8 characters long. Go ahead. It's okay, they are immortals. Now that the king has spoken, the concubine dared not disobey. She had to slowly release her hand holding Emperor Xian and get out of bed to get a wine pot and glass. The consort quickly brought the things over and began pouring wine for Lu Yu. Seeing her shaking hands like that, Lu Yu took the wine jug and started pouring it himself. After pouring the wine, Lu Yu handed it to Xian, then conjured up a glass and poured himself a glass. Several people widened their eyes when they saw Lu Yu transform a cup out of thin air. Why don't you drink? Drinking requires two people to drink together, that's what's interesting, Lu Yu said, drank all the wine in his glass, and poured himself another glass. Oh. Hee hee. Yes. Lu Yu was chatting with Xian while drinking alcohol. After more than 10 minutes of chatting, Xian saw that Lu Yu really had no ill intentions, and the atmosphere of the conversation eased a lot. Emperor Xian is also a shrewd person. Seeing that Lu Yu has great supernatural powers, he wanted to make friends with him. In his mind, if he were to receive some benefits from a fairy like Lu Yu, he would definitely benefit immensely. You immortals are so divine, can you really do it to bring people back to life? Xian took a few nuts and ate them while looking at Lu Yu with an expectant expression. This. Of course it's possible, otherwise why would it still be called a fairy? Xian's eyes lit up. Really? How did you do it? But what kind of elixir is there? The elixir of immortality. What do I need that for? Just do it this way. Lu Yu gestured with his hand as he spoke. What is this like? This. This. Let me demonstrate to you. Xian looked dumbfounded and didn't understand Lu Yu's meaning for a moment. Lu Yu waved his hand and a very thin blade of sword energy swept across Emperor Xian's neck. Xian only felt an itch in his neck. He raised his hand in confusion, scratched his neck, and suddenly rolled his head down. Chapter 9. King Zhou, 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sword energy thread was thin and sharp, which caused the incision on Dishin's neck to be too smooth, without even shifting his nerves. He didn't even know that his neck had been broken. The sleeping hall was filled with flying chickens and dogs, and several concubines were frightened and scattered in a panic. Xian's mouth was wide open, his eyes widened, and he looked at his body incredulously, seeing that his neck was still spraying blood. After a few seconds, my eyes rolled and I quickly stopped breathing. Due to the entire dormitory being sealed off by the formation, the concubines couldn't escape either. Some hid in corners, while others hid behind pillars, and their eyes were filled with fear as they looked at Lu Yu. Lu Yu put down his wine glass, got out of bed, picked up his head, and returned to bed to give peace to Emperor Xian. With a wave of Lu Yu's hand, the blood sprayed out suddenly flickered green and eerily gathered together, forming a blood cell that slowly merged into Xian's body. After the divine light and immortal sound lasted for a few seconds, Xian had a pulse again and woke up. Suck up. Xian sucked back the tongue that had fallen out. Ouch. Xian, who woke up, saw Lu Yu at first glance and was so scared that he crawled and hid behind a pillar. Emperor Xian just saw with his own eyes that his neck was broken and his head rolled to the ground. Lu Yu stood up with the inventory in his hand, walked out of bed, turned to Dishin and said, since you have experienced death once, don't kill too many people in the future. I should. Come back more than 30 years later and help me find a woman named Sidaji. Ayo. Okay. Okay. Dishin didn't care if he understood or not, nodding his head like a chicken pecking at rice. Lu Yu suddenly disappeared from the main hall and returned to an alley in the original city of Cultivation. He transformed into a white horse, eating pastries and shopping. He quickly arrived at the side of a bridge with fewer people, got off his horse, tied his horse to the pier, and sat down on the spot. Lu Yu saw a girl wearing a tight black leather jacket and walked past him. He looked carefully and found that the outfit was really like the tight leather jacket on Earth. After sitting for a few more minutes, Lu Yu saw two strong and strange animals in the distance, pulling a luxurious carriage and slowly driving towards this side. The structure of the chariot is very unique, with a miniature house on the body and 4 large wheels around it. The small house is about 2.5 meters wide and about 4 meters long, with a double-eaved gable roof structure. Behind the coachman, there was an outdoor small platform where a young man and woman were sitting chatting and eating. This car is really beautiful. This is the true meaning of a RV. Compared to the so-called millions of luxury cars on Earth, I don't know how many times they look good, Lu Yu praised repeatedly. After driving to the bridge, the car suddenly stopped, and both the men and women in the car got off one after another. The two of them chatted and slowly arrived at the fence of the bridge to start enjoying the scenery. There were originally a few people on the bridge, but when they saw the man coming over, they all quietly walked away. Lu Yu curiously admired the car driving away, but did not pay attention to the two of them. Just as he was watching intently, he suddenly felt someone kick him. "Kid, get out of here. Didn't you see me here enjoying the scenery?" The man in the car earlier became angry when he saw Lu Yu sitting next to him eating. Lu Yu looked up at the man next to him and slowly stood up. "What did you just say?" "I told you to get out of here, didn't you hear me clearly?" "Ah. This person is arrogant enough and doesn't know what kind of family background is what nurtures this personality." Lu Yu shook his head, not wanting to be affected by this small character, and turned around wanting to leave. "Stop. Come back to me." Although Lu Yu remained silent, his gaze made the man very uncomfortable. The man suddenly changed his mind and was not prepared to let him go. Lu Yu seemed to have never heard him before, still pacing slowly towards the street market ahead. Before he could take a few steps, the man made a leap and jumped directly in front of him, blocking the way. "I didn't let you go, you still want to leave. Get out of the way. Kid, you're so crazy that you can't figure out why you're losing." Lu Yu frowned. After listening, the man suddenly patted Lu Yu's head with his right hand. As the man's palm was about to touch Lu Yu's body, time suddenly slowed down. Lu Yu slightly turned his head and cleverly dodged the man's attack. The man was startled and even tried a few moves, but he didn't even touch Lu Yu's clothes. The man didn't touch Lu Yu several times and waved his hand to summon a golden pagoda. Lu Yu was too lazy to play with him anymore. He grabbed the man's neck and flew into the sky, quickly disappearing from sight. Lu Yu led the man to a mountaintop and threw him to the ground. With a single finger, he turned the man into a toad. Quack! Quack quack! The man shouted a few times and stuck out his tongue, as if he wanted to speak. Lu Yu slowly walked over, and the man was so scared that he quickly jumped to the side. "Jump again, believe it or not, now it turns you into a fly." Lu Yu walked over and squatted down to pick up the man to look at him for a while. "It's just an ordinary toad, besides having a more agile eye, this supernatural ability is quite professional." Lu Yu studied for a while and then put the man on the ground, then suddenly kicked it and rolled it to the foot of the mountain. Chapter 10. Tree House. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let's play with the mother toad for the rest of our lives. I told you earlier not to be so crazy. Lu Yu looked around at the unfamiliar surroundings and flew to the top of a low tree. After enjoying the scenery on the tree for a while, he quickly flew to the ground and began to daydream. He regained his senses and teleported to the foot of the mountain. After searching in the grass for a while, he picked up the man. Lu Yu's figure and appearance began to change, transforming into the man's previous appearance. He disappeared abruptly and led the man to the sky above a magnificent classical courtyard. I took you home. Lu Yufei flew onto a roof, threw the man up, and kicked him down with a precise kick. Several servants who were talking in the courtyard were frightened and scattered by the toad falling from the sky. Lu Yu slowly flew down and had a warm conversation with several servants. Young master. Why did you come back so soon? Oh. I have something to do when I come back. This toad, throw it over to the pond over there. Just keep it there. Just find some bugs for him to eat on a regular basis. Lu Yu spoke to the man again and said, stay at the pond with peace of mind. Don't let anyone discover your identity. After 10 years, the true body will recover on its own. After chatting briefly with the servant again, Lu Yu leaped away. He still needs to take a good stroll around this city of cultivation. Lu Yu asked in his heart, how is the realm of cosmic cultivation divided? The realm of cultivation in this universe is divided into the Qi refining period, the condensing pulse period, the spirit silence period, the golden elixir period, the Yuan infant period, the infant transformation period, the spirit transformation period, the unity period, the cave void period, the Mahayana period, and the crossing calamity period. During the Qi refining period, each realm is divided into 9 levels, while the following realms are divided into the early, middle, and late stages. After the crossing calamity period, there are actually realms. Before the Qi refining period, there are 3 martial realms: external strength, internal strength, and transforming strength. This universe was mainly created by borrowing from some novels, while many other universes have completely different cultivation systems due to different world rules and the lack of a guiding system for the development of the heavenly way. Oh. That's good. I used to read those cultivation novels, and each novel had a completely different cultivation system. A single system would be too monotonous. Lu Yu was strolling on the street, looking around and feeling around. Suddenly, his gaze was drawn to a forest next to the street. Those trees grow tall and thick, some even reaching over 20 meters high. The branches and leaves of the tree are very lush, and the leaves are similar to those of cypress trees, which are relatively fine and dense. Lu Yu thought that he had never lived in a treehouse before, but now he wants to give it a try. He jumped up and stepped on the branch twice, jumping onto a thick branch. Zhou, turn me into a giant bird's nest and come out. I've seen it in movies before. Good, the bird's nest has been placed inside the coiled dragon ring, take a look. Lu Yu closed his eyes and took a look. Sure enough, there was a very large bird's nest added to the space ring. Did you create this bird's nest out of thin air? No, it was transferred from the underworld forest by me. It was originally a bird's nest for some tree-dwelling person. Tree-dwelling humans. Oh. Zhou said, you go ahead of the branches and reach the fork, put the bird's nest there. Lu Yu took a look and saw 4 branches branching out from the end of the thick trunk. It was indeed suitable and stable to place the bird's nest there. He slowly walked over and placed his hand at the fork. A large circular bird's nest appeared out of nowhere on the branch. Lu Yu pressed the inside of the bird's nest with his hand, feeling that the grass inside was quite soft. In addition to the scent of thatch, Lu Yu even smelled a faint fragrance of a young girl. The space fluctuated and a rope appeared, firmly tying the bird's nest to the branch. Lu Yu also made a bird's nest at the top of the tree, and then he returned to the bottom. He climbed inside the nest and lay down on his back, resting his feet on the edge of the nest. He rolled over and lay on the edge of the bird's nest, looking contentedly at the pedestrians below. Lu Yu jumped left and right on the tree and quickly landed on the ground. He bought 2 basketball-sized pomegranates and strawberries at a fruit stand, and then went to a meat stand to buy some meat.